I was just listening to this young lady. She said, she did a great man. It was a great message. She said something though. She said, none of us know what we're doing or where we're going. And I've been noticing that lately. It's like a lot of people are confused about what they should do and what they should be doing. A lot of people, celebrities, rich, wealthy, it's nothing to be ashamed of. But I'm gonna give y'all a gift. I'm gonna give y'all all a Merry Christmas gift so we can all know exactly what we need to be doing. I'm gonna show y'all a trick that God showed me. When you born without guidance, and what I mean by that is nobody in the physical. Yeah, I was born on a playground where it was meant for me to fail, so my family was part of an experiment. I'm part of an experiment, government experiment. You know what I'm saying? That's what I like to call it, but it might not be a government experiment. It might just be an organizational experiment, or it might just be a spiritual experiment, or it might just be some ancient type of experiment. Either way it goes, it's an experiment. So I call myself the sacrificial baby. Most people say the black sheep, the sacrificial baby. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is that this could have easily been orchestrated by God itself. I know that sounds bad, but it's not if you God's child and God's trying to wake you up. If God's trying to wake you up, when God is trying to wake you up, when God is trying to wake you up, you gotta, and you God's child, you gotta go through the hardest. I mean, you God's child, what guidance can a human being give you? They were just shuttled to bring you here. They were just shuttled to bring you here. You God's child, what can they do, right? So I was, no matter when I was in the street, my plans was to excel. That's why I couldn't join groups and stuff and gangs and stuff, because I wanted to be in the street. I ain't had no choice but to be in the street. I need to be in the street so I can eat. I was too young to get a job. I need to eat. So I had to be in the streets. But I want to excel if I went to the streets. I want to excel with anything I get into. I want to excel with anything I get into. The streets was the first thing I got into, so I wanted to excel. So when I got into the street, I said, how am I going? Before I got into the street, and I knew I was going to the street, and I knew I need to get in the street, I said, how am I going to excel in the street? I asked myself that question too early. I had to first and yet be in the streets. When I got in the streets, I realized I need to excel past the drugs. I'm going to be selling drugs. I'm not condoning selling drugs. This is something that I had to do at the time and that I felt I had to do. But I didn't want to hurt nobody. How can I do this the right way? And it really is no right way. But when you left with no options. So what would be the right way? I guess y'all like, oh, how you gonna fit still? How you gonna question it? I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna question it. Big dogs. You know how many people die and lose their life on the block because somebody poisoning their drugs, and the person that's poisoning the drugs just poisoning the drugs because there's a drought on drugs and they wanted the money. No matter how they had to get the money, they were going to get the money, so they decided to poison the drugs. So the group that I got together made sure wasn't nobody poisoning the drugs, because people die instantly when you get poisoned in the drugs. And that's powerful. How did I excel in the street? Because it was women getting gang raped. It was women being raped so much to the point where they like to be raped. So you protect these women as much as you can until they sneak off with these kind of individuals, and then they have their way with these women. That's how I excelled in the streets. I protected people. If I did have to dabble in drugs, they were clean drugs. I was no addict. Honestly, I never been an addict. I don't like for nothing to have control over me. Now, if it's a sexy woman and she is meant to be with me, I might let her have a little bit, but only God can truly have control over me. And if she real with God, she should understand that. So how did I excel in the streets? I excelled in the streets because first and foremost, I didn't want to be in the streets. Even though I was born in the streets, I didn't want to be in the streets. Well, because of the fact that I was born in the streets, I didn't want to be in the streets. I got tired of going back to the clubs every weekend. Every weekend, different club. Every weekend, different lady. Every weekend, different problem. It's fun when you're looking at it and you want to come into it, but when you're born into it, you want to run out of it. So while a lot of people running into it, I like to run out of it. I just meet a lot of good people running into it, trying to warn them not to go to it. That's how I excelled in the streets. So I utilized the money that I made from the streets, and I invested the money secretly that I made from the streets, because I realized by being in the streets, you can't tell nobody in the streets how much money you really is getting. And then the fights was in all the leagues, even Bruce Lee. So I had to elevate myself in the streets in all the leagues, even Bruce Lee secretly. But my brother called me a coward because of the way I did this, because I would take him off somewhere and discipline him secretly. And only he would be with me. He couldn't jump in it, but he could witness for me. May he rest in peace, even though he's still with me. Not only is he still with me, but I can utilize his gifts that he had while he was in the physical here with me. Anytime I want to. I'm talking about any of them. Physically, mentally, in all the leagues. So, that's how I excelled in the street. But I wanted to get out of the streets. I wanted to invest what I made in the streets and put it into to legal money, which was smart, but was it smart? It worked out, but it didn't work out. It got me what I needed, but I lost everything as fast as I got it. And then I had to re-up in the business with legal money in order to actually earn and get to keep what I earned after I got it. I hope y'all got that. It was kind of over the top a little bit. So, let's go. Let me take you to this gift then. So, during this stage of my life, I'm asking God, because I'm knowing that I'm not completely right with Christ. And I feel like God is looking down on me, ashamed of me. So I'm like, God, how can I even get this right? I got no guidance. Nobody will help me. I can't go to school. They done gave me charges, unnecessary charges, to the point where I can't go to school for 7 years. I can't get a job for 7 years. God, I need some guidance. I need some help. Everybody not trying to help. Nobody's trying to help me in the physical. How can I be guided? How can I do this? And it took me years to get a clear answer. God probably told me as soon as I asked it, and it did. And when I tell you how to find your purpose in life, you're gonna be like, wow. I done told y'all this a million times, but I'm telling you this like this, so when you hear it, you're gonna be like, wow. Now let's go to my brother Jesus Christ. Good can't do bad like bad can't do good. As you elevate and you heal yourself, you bring in your real lover. Only then can you bring in your real lover. When God bring your real lover to you, he gonna bring your twin or your flame or your soulmate to you. Which in other words, that's 45 years, 50 to 45 years to a 100-year relationship, easy. Like the young lady said, she said she think numbers hold a lot of power. Numbers do hold power. Numbers do hold power, especially in this physical plane. The cycles of the moon and the sun coming up and going in and out every day, power. The star counts in the sky, power. The leaves falling off the trees, the count of the leaves on the trees, power. Now, let me show you something. It's guidance. It's guidance. So God was like, it's there, the answer is there. I always been there. I'm gonna give y'all a Merry Christmas present. The answer always been there. It took me years to figure this out. And guess why it took me years to figure it out? It took me years to figure it out because I didn't want to rip that thorn out my flesh. But for some reason at the time, I heard a story. I guess it's a site from my flame, my opposite, said drugs, certain drugs is good for. I won't never say that. Never in a million years would I say that. But I will tell you this. At this time in my life, I had a bunch of thorns in my flesh. So as I started pulling these thorns out of my flesh, and see, your thorns is your sin, your temptation, your secret sin, your darkest of the sins. As I had, and at this point in my life, by the grace of God, I had a lot of thorns in my side. So I started pulling one thorn. I had so many thorns that when I started pulling them out, I started seeing direction change in my life. And then I realized that the thorns was left and right signs, stop signs, caution lights. See, in the physical and the spiritual, that's where the physical got it from. What did the physical get caution lights from? What did the physical get direction from? What did the physical get GPS from? What did the physical get coordinates from? What did the physical get addresses from? That's where it got it from. So as I started healing in my life and I started going in a better direction in my life, I had a bunch of thorns in my flesh. So let's say the last 2 or 3 thorns in my flesh, which I really wouldn't consider a thorn in my flesh, was alcohol, marijuana, and let's say a cigarette. But them, not really, whatever. But I had a whole lot of them before I got to these 3 thorns. So I started removing the thorns out my flesh slowly. And as I removed each thorn out of my flesh slowly, I started seeing changes around me. So let's say it's 1 million people in my view. As I go ahead and try to let's say 100,000 people is in my view, around me, surrounding me, looking at me like they the leader. Well, as I pull out one thorn, 20,000 people leave. And I noticed that. I'm noticing they dropping, but at this point, I'm thinking they dropping because of me. I'm blaming me. I'm torturing me. I remove another thorn out my flesh. Another 20,000 people leave. I remove another thorn out my flesh. Another 20,000 people leave. Before I know that, I done removed so many thorns out my flesh, I can see the people in front of me. I can count them. It's barely a handful in front of me, or 2 handfuls. Now at this point, I done beat myself up about all these people leaving me until I realized they not leaving me, they directed me. Why did the first 20,000 people leave? Because I probably wasn't doing this no more and doing that no more and moving the way they move. They didn't like it. It ain't that they didn't like it, they was programmed in that's their vibrational frequency. I had to elevate it out of their frequency. So I had to remove them 20,000 people in peace. But that first 20,000 people that I alleviated out my life did not end well. Probably ended in fights, arguments, altercations. By the time I got to the second 20,000 people, I started letting them lead me. Like when they left, I realized they wasn't leaving me because they hate me. They was alleviated from me. They was taken out of my life by God. But I still didn't understand why it had to go that way. But every time these group of people leave, these 20,000 people leave, I either had to go left or I either had to go right. Or I either had to go straight. Or I either had to go up. Because when you already down, you can't go nowhere but up. So, what am I saying to this? I just answered everybody's question. You want to find your purpose in life. It don't matter where you sitting at. It don't matter where you standing at. It don't matter the conditions of your life. It don't matter how bad your conditions is. It don't matter how contaminated you is. It don't matter how terrible you might seem to be to yourself. It's free of charge to start trying to find your true self. It's free of charge trying to find your real purpose in life. All you have to do is heal yourself. And the direction is going to come through nature. And that's what I mean when I'm losing the 20,000 groups of people, the different 20,000 groups. They were the directions. So by the time I get to the last 20,000 people, I realize I'm on this narrow path to God. It's narrow to get to heaven. It's broad to get to hell. Your purpose is in God's hands. Only God can give you your purpose. So how do I know that I get in my purpose? How did I know that I got in my purpose? Why am I so sure that I'm in my purpose? How am I so sure that I'm in my purpose? I'm so sure that I'm in my purpose because of the fact that, let's say back in slavery time, my family might have did some devil deals. This is called breaking generational curses. You can't break generational curses until you started removing the thorns out of your flesh. The thorns out of your flesh is the beginning of your generational curses. You didn't even get them thorns. You wouldn't have them thorns in your flesh if you probably didn't have generational curses. This is what it means when it say what rolled down off your family, your parents' back, rolled onto the kids' back. This brain facts in the fact that when we have kids, it's just a replica and a copy of ourselves. That's why you find some people that don't want to have kids. They probably in their last 2 lifetimes out here. They probably in their last 2 lifetimes out here. They probably in their last 2 lifetimes. When you got a bunch of kids, you know, the problems from the parents gonna roll off on the kids. That's where you get the bastard kids. The bastard kids just feel probably overwhelmed. Because if you had a child out of wedlock, you really wasn't ready to have a child, right? If you got a child when you married, then you probably was prepared or thought you were prepared to have a child. So you wasn't so into your sowing your royal oats. You wasn't so into your flesh. But if you have a child out of wedlock, you still of the flesh. You still living of the world. So that goes on to this child. That's why they call it a bastard child. See, I'm answering questions now. This is what the chosen ones here to get down on. This is what we doing. We're giving y'all the answers now. So it don't matter if you're a celebrity, wealthy, rich, or poor. It don't matter who you are. Don't matter where you sit. If you want to know your purpose in life, all you got to do is heal yourself. When you kill yourself, and that means even if you're doing drugs, even if you're doing something toxicity, when you hurt yourself, you send yourself into another direction. You start adding on foes of your life. You start adding on enemies. You start adding on programs. You start adding on haters. You start adding on people you think your friends and really not your friends, but your enemy. So they sending you a different direction. So by this time, you probably got 100,000 people in your life. So you got these thorns in your flesh. So you got to remove one thorn. You remove one thorn, you remove 20,000 people. Boom. They going to send you in another direction. You move another 20,000 people. Boom. They going to send you down another direction. Now you can see the difference between hell and heaven. I just gave y'all the answer. Now everybody know their purpose in life. Your purpose in life is sitting right there where you sitting at. So how did this work in my life? It sent me all the way down to my inheritance. Who was actually messing with my money? Who put me in a situation that left my life funny? Who was doing something funny for change? Doing something funny for money? It sent me in the direction of healing prostitution, healing drug addictions. It sent me in the level I was breaking generational curses. I'm healing generational curses. This is called going back to Genesis. This is how it looked when you go from Revelation to Rapture to Auction to Genesis. You go to Revelation to Auction to Genesis. Okay, you're going back to Genesis. Now we're going back to Genesis. What does that mean? Genesis means you are cleaning yourself from the toxicity. You are cleansing yourself from toxicity. So you're going in a different direction. Many people can't come down this direction. Many people are not going to go down this direction. Many people refuse to go down this direction because when you start over with Genesis, you really got to learn to grow your own food. You really got to learn to heal you. You really got to learn to protect you. You really got to learn to love you without having something to put into your body so you can love you. You got to get up with a sound mind and go to sleep with a sound mind. You got to hold power. That's how you do it. This is what it looked like when you go back to Genesis. People so disturbed when they hear Revelation. Revelation is so scary to it. We living in Revelation because we destroying ourselves every day. Revelation is death. So who gonna die and who gonna live? Who wanna die and who wanna live? So you're going back to Genesis. When you wanna live, you gotta literally heal. You are forced to heal. We've been in the end times. So those who are cleansing themselves, those who are really cleaning themselves, like myself, are being preserved. It looked like prison. It looked like unalive. It looked like death. It looked like somebody's killing you, but they actually healing you. Because I feel good and I look good, and I'm 41 years old and I feel 30 years old. I feel like I look 25. Genesis. Now I just helped the whole world. That's my Merry Christmas to the whole world. So if you want to know your purpose in life, you ain't got to, you can taper off of things in life. You can taper off. It's best that you taper off. Don't quit everything at one time. That's my advice. Because if you don't know your purpose in life, if you don't know what you are here for, why would you quit everything cold turkey? You're going to be confused when you do that. Slowly taper yourself off so you can be directed to the right path of your life. And even though you still sitting in the same position in your life and you still feel like you are in the same position in your life, though you done healed, that's the part of life you need to understand, because you're not in the same position. You just did the most important part of your life. You healed the inside before you healed the outside. You are probably supposed to be right there. That's how it works, baby. And Merry Christmas to everybody. So if you really want to know your purpose, all you got to do is heal yourself patiently. Have patience of a shepherd.